Welcome back, everyone. I'm Zell, and today we're getting a look at the yet-to-be-released Bestech Paladin. Alright, guys, so you have seen the Bestech has kind of went woo, trying some different things here lately. We've had the Beluga and Spike and a couple of others in 12C27, which I actually don't think is a really bad idea. I really have some opinions about that we'll talk about during those reviews, but they listened. They heard you. You guys wanted them to get back to D2. You wanted to see a steel that you were comfortable with, a steel that you knew. And that's what we've done here. So let's get a look at the outside of the knife. And, you know, they've done a really nice job of milling here. They've taken some of the things that we've said. We've got just a wee bit of texture here. And yes, that was intended because it's very similar to the kind of texture you're going to get from a D2 Wii knife. You got just that little bit of milled in. Same thing here, just a little bit. Now we do have a bit of design flair milled in there. And no texture across the back. We got a G10 backspacer in this one. Stainless screws, same old free spinning pivot. I do hear rumor that that's going to change, but you know, only time will tell. And we've got a standard bent pocket clip. The best part of all of this is that we're still coming in at $52 for your map pricing. That's minimum advertised price, what you're going to get it for at Blade HQ or supposedly anywhere else. That's supposed to be the minimum price, which is a rather fabulous price. Looking down the top of it, we're all centered up just like we should be. The only visual, and this is a nitpick of the highest order, is this area right here between the back of the blade where the stop pin hits and the handle. It's not a bad look, it's just different. And, you know, it's necessitated by where the stop pin is. So, just something to point out. But overall, Bestech has come out with a good-looking knife. It's got the blade down in there deep enough that you shouldn't be hitting it with your hand. And just very nice. Let's get it out here, and we'll do a bit of size comparison. And we'll grab our standards, of course. We have the Ontario Rat Model 1. I've got the Orange Delica, or Burnt Orange Delica today. And, oh goodness, where'd he go? I have no idea, friends. I just absolutely do not know where our Buck 110 is. That's kind of disturbing, to be quite honest. So, oh, there's one. Get the Buck 110 out there. There we go. It's a Buck 110 size knife, but considerably lighter. We've got a weight of 4.53 ounces, which is not light by any means, but it's also not heavy for this type of knife. So, doing pretty good there. And now, let's get a look at this blade. And what we have is a slight trailing point, and I mean ever so slight. It looks more trailing point than it really is. Here, we got a little zag box here that we can lay it up against and kind of look down through there. And you see what I mean by ever so slight trailing point? There's just, it is, but it's not much. We are swedged up here very nicely. One thing I've noticed on this knife is some of the things that I pointed out on the earlier Bestech knives have started to go away. Our swedging here has all been slightly softened except on the very top. And from what I understand there, they leave that somewhat, and whenever I say it's not softened, it's not sharp either. But they leave that just a little bit like that for those guys that want to use their knife with the ferro rod. And as long as they're not leaving some super sharp point, I'm okay with that. But the lower side of this swedge is softened. The edges of the jimping up here have been softened, and the jimping is not as aggressive as we've seen in the past. Still very lock you in, but not as aggressive. And anyhow, back to the blade. It is 3.62 inches of D2 steel. And we have heard this talk about D2 steel. We've talked about it here on this channel. We've talked about it on some of the other YouTube channels. I can tell you now, Bestech is working on and doing more testing with their D2 suppliers with the intent of relieving completely that problem. They think they've got a handle on it now, and you know, the Paladins that come out should be good to go. They have a U.S. service rep now, so if you do have a problem, it's taken care of. They're not giving any problems with blade replacements or any of that kind of stuff right now. Pretty much goes off without a hitch. So no fears there. Let's look at the blade itself, and we've got quite a bit of belly right here, and it's rather abrupt. Makes for a good cutting knife. I've cut quite a bit of stuff with this. Works really well. They've got that finish on there that I like a lot, that belt finish that's been polished just a little bit. And now let's look down at our edge termination. That edge termination, I mean, look at that, guys. Comes out really, really well. I also like the black sort of stonewash. Again, somewhat similar to what we does up there on the blade. Very nice. We got D2 and Paladin on this side. And just overall, guys, very good in that respect. Let's go to our pause and read card, and I'll be right back with you. Alright guys, so internally this is a pre-production knife, so I did not take it apart, but I have been assured by their U.S. rep that the internals on this knife are just the same as the previous knives we've looked at. We've got the free spinning pivot, we've got ceramic ball bearings, we've got ceramic detent, we have nested stainless liners that have been milled out. Yep, see, you can see them down there. They've been milled out for weight, and everything just looks really good as far as construction. We've got very good lockup on the knife. As far as materials go, they are using a different G10 than we and some of the other companies. Let me grab a wee knife and we'll get a look at that. Alright guys, my closest two knives to me that are G10 as well. One is a wee knife, and I've got a video done that I haven't put up, and I'm going to have to amend it now. But the major difference between wee knives G10 and the G10 here on the Bestech is layer count. And yeah, that does in some ways lead to a quality difference. However, it's one of those splitting hairs things. The wee knife, its G10 is stiff. It's hard. Now, that allows them to mill all this stuff in it and make it look just absolutely beautiful. And that's with the exception of the new peel ply knives, the ignition and the rectifier. That's what we's doing for their G10 knives. And it's a beautiful thing. It does mean that it's harder and it's slightly more brittle. It does not flex as much as the G10 we've got here. This G10 is a lower layer count G10. It's what gives you the nice wood grain look to the G10, but it does flex a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. Where your wee knife, I mean, if you want to flex that stuff, go right ahead. I'm not going to do it because it's going to hurt my hands. And that's your major difference on G10. And I don't know who the winner there is. I like the rigidity of the wee knives. However, the wee knives having the harder G10, so to speak, causes some problems with people snagging pocket clips and breaking a chunk out of the G10. And it just doesn't have that. They have to contour it to get that really warm feel to it. All the wee knives have a nice warm feel to them, but if this was blockier, it would not have that feel because there's no give to the surface at all. It's more of a metal-like surface, even though it's G10. Anyhow, moving along from that, mechanically, very sound, very good. Let's look at the screws real quick, and then we'll move along from there and get to the ergonomics. Let's see which one. I picked up the Philo driver again. So let's check. Bestech usually does a pretty good job. And they're not bad. They're deep enough. They are T6s. I fuss a lot about T6s. Bestech, I'm fussing at you about T6s. Quit it. You can get T8s with the same head size, and yes, you have to buy harder screws, but that's good for the customer. But overall, they've got good screws. Are they as good as, say, steel wheel screws? No. Are they as good as what we and Riot are using? No. You're giving $52 for a knife. Let's keep this in perspective. All right, so ergonomics. This is where this knife wins. And it wins in a big way. You got that blade come off at a common angle, something that you're going to be used to using from other knives. Still a bit stylistic, and you can just pretty much get a hold of it any way you want to. Flipping the knife, the only thing I would have done here was I would have ran this jimping a little further down on this flipper tab. Why? Because it's not going to be a problem if this is your main knife and the one you carry every day. But if you carry various knives that have jimping in that area, the first time you pick it up, you're going to do a couple of those till you realize you got to put just a little more force into it. But then the flipping action, I don't even know if I can make this thing not flip. We'll see. That was pretty light. I've got to break the detent, and yeah, if I break the detent, it's going to come open. So the flipping action is marvelous. The close action, Bestech has really got these things dialed in. At $52, you're getting a great steel, and Bestech is doing their best to get the quality control of that steel in check. And while they're in process of that, they are taking care of you with no problems. And to be quite honest, I have talked to their service rep, and the number of actual returns due to the steel problem versus the number of knives out there make it very small. And like I said, Bestech is actively moving towards qualifying a new supplier for their D2 steel. And this time around, they have several vendors in trying to win their business on not only price but quality. So Bestech is listening and doing what you guys want. And I'm not joking about that. If you like what Bestech's doing and you want to see changes, you want to see new stuff, get it down in the comments on these videos that myself or anybody else does on the Bestech knives, because they are watching. They want to make knives that you want. And guys, that's a rarity for a company today, so, take advantage of it. Anyhow, I will blather on for a long time. Let's get this guy in the pocket. And there we go with the Levi's. And I've got them a little weird there. We'll fix that and get it down in the pocket. And, there you go. Does it stick out of the pocket some? Yes, it does. Not bad, though. We'll get her centered up. Zoom in. But we got our lanyard hole sticking out just at the top. Got a pretty nice pocket clip that's got plenty of room under it for any pair of jeans that you may want to have it in. And that, my friends, is a beautiful thing. A lot of knife companies don't understand that right away. And Bestech didn't either. But several of us made comment to them about that. And here we go. Everything's fixed. So, overall opinions of the Bestech Paladin. I think that this is probably one of the best of their D2 series. I like what they've done with the blade. I like what they've done with ergonomics. I like how they put the pocket clip on there. Even though it's not a super deep carry pocket clip, it doesn't have to be for me. I like that they're starting to add in that little bit of milling. And I also, even though I was talking about it, I like the fact that they're not using the harder G10 that Wee's using. Why do I like that? Because Bestech is making you a knife for $52, and they're not adding in some of that excess milling that WE's doing. And without that excess milling and contouring that WE's doing, I don't want the harder G10. It just makes the knife hard to get your hand around and makes it feel like an old metal knife. And that's not what we want with G10. We want G10 to be warm and inviting to put your hand around. And that's what we get here with the Paladin. Now, as far as the name goes, you know, I don't know. We've got a trailing point, and it's a Paladin. I thought Paladins carried really big hammers, but I suppose you could use this as a hammer, but I wouldn't suggest it. Anyhow, guys, this has been the Bestech Paladin. It's gonna be a good one for Bestech, and at the price tag and the customer service that they're providing, I don't think you can go wrong. It's gonna be a good one, and that includes almost all of their D2 knives. You guys know that Swordfish. That is one of my favorites from last year in the less expensive realm. And this one's going to be pretty far up there. I know we're not even halfway into the year yet, but this one's going to be pretty far up there. It's a really, really nice knife. Anyhow, you guys have a wonderful day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.